Hey, everybody. This is Harold Fisher with WHUR News. Tonight, we are social distancing at home, just as we always should. Of course, doing all of the safe stuff that we need to do while we are having tonight's HUR at home conversation. Now, tonight, I'm going to be talking with Michelle Singletary about your money. Of course, Michelle is the color of money columnist with the Washington Post. She's going to join us now in just a bit, just for a short conversation, talk about what is happening in your world when it comes to your money. So we're going to connect with Michelle, and there she is.
Hi,
Michelle,
how are
how
you?
are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good. Why don't you let me hear some of those books you got back there? Books on money.
My book is up there.
I'm, I'm sure it is, without a doubt.
Offering my book.
Side hustle always in effect.
That's right.
That's right. Well, you look good.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of this conversation, and welcome to my home here in Baltimore as I'm social distancing.
Yeah.
There
I'm
we go.
locked in my office. This is my office where I do all my work.
Oh, so the family's not going to let you out. You're going to just stay there.
Yeah. I mean, I have my office and they have their little corners of the house. So thank goodness.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, before we even get into the conversation, I really do want to know how you're doing with all of this.
Well, it's so interesting you should ask that. I have good days and bad days like a lot of people. I'm very grateful that both my husband and I are still working. Our children are still able to go to college, online, and we don't have any debt related to that. And so we are doing well financially, even though our retirement accounts are way down like so many others. We're still blessed. But I've been covering the stimulus and the economic impact on people across the country, and it's bad. And every time I talk to someone, I just put that into my soul because I wish there was more that I could help them with. So many people are unemployed or underemployed, and furloughed, and my heart just goes out to them. And I'm trying to do my best through my column at the Washington Post to inform people about, what to do if you can't pay your mortgage or your rent. I've been spending the last week and a half doing everything about the stimulus payments. Lots of people got it, lots of people didn't. And so I bounce around, to be honest. Some days I'm okay and I'm feeling super, fine and thinking this too shall pass. And then one day I'll just get inundated with emails from people in trouble and wanting just someone to talk to. And then I crash a little bit, but then I get up the next day. It helps that I, have a tight family, church family, so we are staying in contact and still having service online. Bible study just ended, so that has helped. But it's a tough time for everybody. But at the end of the day, I'm very blessed to be able to be where I am.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Um, let's maybe talk about the more um, the thing that's less challenging. People like myself, people like yourself, who find themselves working, still getting a paycheck,
Yeah,
thank God,
yeah,
but are still kind of struggling with what to do with their money. Because for me, on one hand, I don't have the commute from Baltimore to Washington that I normally do, spend a ton of money on gas.
right.
But now the money that I'm saving on gas, for example, is going to other things. Are people who still have jobs but social distancing and working from home, are they doing better than they were when they were working, or is that money just moving around?
I've heard from a lot of people. In fact, it's interesting to say that one of my dear friends just texted me the other day, and they've got some credit card debt, but they have saved about $2,000 from not commuting and the car costs, mostly, like you say, the car costs. And so she was asking me, what should we do? Should we put it on the credit card debt? Should we, throw it at stuff? And I think at this time, even those of us who have good jobs, I think cash is still king for right now. And so, because none of us really know what's going on, I mean, we think our jobs are secure, and the next thing there's a downturn in our industry. Even in my industry, for example, people who work for Gannett, they have had to take a furlough. And so I don't think any job is guaranteed, even if you work for the government. And so I think that make sure you have an emergency fund. And then once you've had all these expenses and it grows, then you can take the extra and apply to try to get that debt down, so that if something happens down the road, you'll have less debt and more savings. So you want both worlds, really. And if you have no emergency fund, well, my goodness, this is the time to start that. Pile some money into that before you aggressively pay off debt, so that you have a cushion. Because I wrote a column about what do you do during this time, and I talked about how you have to triage your debts. And what that means is that if you ever gone to an emergency room that's full of people, and they
Hmm.
have staff, they use something called triage. So they treat the most severe people first, and that's what you have to do with your debts. So the debts, your bills. So the bills that you have to pay, absolutely, a roof over your head, food on the table, take care of those first. And even though you know how I am about no debt, but
Yeah.
right now, credit cards is not a priority. That credit card debt is not a priority. You have to make sure that you have enough to cover the necessities of life. I'm not saying shirk that debt, but maybe at this time, it just pains me to say this, but you just pay the minimum payment so that you can stockpile some cash.
Mm.
And or ask for a payment holiday. Just say, listen, I can't deal with this, and pay all this other stuff. Maybe your spouse has lost their job or have reduced hours or furlough. And so you just say, can I just have a couple months holiday, or not, so that I won't have to pay, so that you can keep some cash in the bank in case things get worse.
How realistic is that, asking for those holidays? We've spoken about this on the Daily Drum, where I've said the credit card companies, the banks, they know this is going on,
Right.
but is it still a hard sell to ask for that holiday to get
No,
that break
not
so
at
that you
all.
can move stuff
I have
elsewhere?
Yeah, not at all. I don't know about you, but I have several financial relationships, and every single one of my institutions, both the banks and the credit unions, because I have both, because I like a lot of pots with my money. And so every single one has been sending me emails on a regular basis saying, hey, if you're in trouble, contact us, let us know what's going on. Right now, the CARES Act, which passed on March 27th, that big stimulus package.
Oh, you mean the one where the small business money was exhausted last week that we
Exactly.
were just talking about on the Daily Drum
Right,
some
exactly. So
15 minutes ago? Yeah.
yeah, they have a provision in there where the lenders, if you have a federally backed loan, will give you forbearance for up to an initial 180 days. That's 6 months without making a mortgage payment. And then there's a provision for an additional 180 days. Now, doesn't mean that you don't have to pay that money back, but you get some breathing room in your loan, but it has to be a federally backed loan. So yeah, and the same thing with credit card debt, auto loans, personal loans. They all know that we're all going through this together. That lots of people are not working through no fault of their own, and so they are giving forbearances. Now the key is lots of people can't get through to them on the phone, because 22 million people are unemployed, and they're
Right.
all calling their lenders. So you have to be very patient. You may have to call several times a day for several days before you get through, but keep pressing to call to get that relief.
Now, you mentioned federally backed loans. What about those mortgages that may not be? How might that work?
Yeah, so when I say federally backed loans, FHA, VA loans, loans you might have got from Ginnie Mae, even if you got some sort of farm loan. So the non-federal loans are ones that you might have got from Clicking Loans or some company that doesn't sound like they're not banks. And so those, whether or not they give you forbearance, depends on the investors who own those loans. It's up to them to decide. Now, what we found in the past, like during the housing crisis, is they followed the lead of the federal government. However, it's not the same. Like, for example, for an FHA loan, you'll get a forbearance and they'll either tack it onto the end of your loan or add a little bit to your monthly payments until you get that back payments done. Those non-bank loans, they may not do that. At the end of 90 days, they're going to want their money and they may start foreclosure proceedings. But I think given the severity of this the impact of the pandemic, that I think they'll be more willing to work with people. So the key is that you have to just stay in communications with your lenders,
Mm-hmm.
and just press your case and press your case. It may get to a point where you can't save your home, which happened during the housing crisis. And you know what? That's okay, because you if that's what happens. And we have found that people have been able to recover even from the housing crisis when so many people lost their homes.
Let me ask you in these last few minutes, uh, people are receiving their $1,200.
Yeah.
And for those with children, maybe receiving, $500 per child. If you've not received it yet, but you are expecting it, what should you do with that money when you get it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been writing about that like crazy. Like, I wrote a story that's in the paper right now. If you go to WashingtonPost.com, it's about how this is crazy. So deceased people are getting money, and veterans and people on Social Security have not got their money yet.
Right.
So crazy, right? So I wrote about that. So there's two waves. So there was a first initial wave of about 80 million people, and those were the folks who had either a 2018 return or a 2019 return and got a refund, which means they have your direct deposit information. They
Mm-hmm.
won't do it if you owe taxes and gave them your bank account. They're not going to give it that, because the law says that the IRS has to get an affirmative from you that they can put the stimulus payment into your bank account. So anyway, I know, right? Crazy. They could have interpreted that different. So there's two, waves. So the second wave is supposed to be coming in the next couple weeks, either through direct deposit or check. And when you get that, there's like really a couple things you should do. First of all, if you've lost your job, you're unemployed, or your wages have been reduced, you need to you need to put that money on your bills. Pay what you need to pay, put food on your table. That's a no brainer. And the second thing is, if you're still working and you still can kind of manage, you got to cut some stuff, then you should save that money, because down the road, you may have a disruption in your income. Maybe it's not you, but your spouse. A really good dear friend of mine in the newspaper business, great job, wonderful person. Her hours have been cut by 25%. Still got a job.
Mm-hmm.
But who can weather a 25% cut in pay? So you save that money in case it happens to you. The third thing is, don't dump it on debt. Do not, again, your credit card bill is not a priority. Many people are worried about, well, what happened to my credit
Right. To my
score?
credit and all
So
of that.
forget about that right there. First of all, where you gonna be getting no credit no how? You're not gonna be buying no car, no house no time soon if you lost your job. So don't worry about your credit score. I can work with you, and you can read my columns, and I'll help you get back to that point where you have a good credit score. But forget about that. So don't aggressively pay off debt. Don't dump it on debt. Don't put it on a credit card. And even if they say we're not gonna give you forbearance, say I
Yeah.
can't pay you. And then lastly, if you don't need
Well,
it,
real
give
quick,
it
because I,
away.
I only have a minute and 30
Okay.
seconds for you.
So the last part is, if you don't need the money, please consider giving it to a nonprofit, to your church, or to people in your family who need the money.
Well, there you go.
You know who you are. You know you're doing well. Both of you are still working, or you're still working. Let's try to help our neighbor. We are our brothers and our sisters keepers right now.
Well, I think that's a great way to end this conversation. Michelle Singletary, good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too.
Tell your husband I said, hey,
I,
stay in the office. Don't make anybody sick. Stay home and keep writing. Michelle,
that's
good to
right.
see you always. We'll be
Right.
talking soon.
Okay, great. Good to be here.
All righty. And of course, that was Michelle Singletary, the Washington Post columnist for the Color of Money. Good information. I'm Harold Fisher with the Daily Drum and HUR at home. Everyone, stay safe, stay inside, and I will see you next week.